don't forget to invest in your precious gems at home. The statistics were frightening. I read somewhere that an estimated 90% of marriages end in divorce when there is a chronically ill child in summer. Peggy and I were emotionally torn and tattered. Physically, too. The days were long, and the news was constantly bad. It was a fragile and uncertain time. I couldn't predict which way it would turn out, and for a guy like me who always likes to control things, that was really tough. The rubble was deep, and there seemed to be no ring in sight. As mentioned earlier, a critical part of creating a healthy financial portfolio is diversifying your investments. A healthy mix of stocks, bonds, and mutual funds helps mitigate the effects of changing and unpredictable markets. It works the same way with your change portfolio, a metaphor I use to describe the investment of time and energy you make in people. A healthy change portfolio includes diversified investments in not only your diamonds in the rough at work, but your precious gems at home. These are the individuals, friends, and family that you hold most dear outside of work. They are the ones you count on to pick you up when change gets you down. It's easy to take these folks for granted and to neglect your investment in them. For that matter, it's easy to take ourselves for granted and neglect those investments too. How many of us put our needs, and those of our families, behind those of our business, customers, and clients? We trust that our family and friends will always be there for us, but we aren't so sure about our clients and customers, so sometimes we put them first. And we reason that if we don't take care of business first, we won't be able to take care of our family, at least financially. So for many of us, work is the priority. There is some merit to this line of reasoning, but there is danger. Some merit to this line of reasoning, but there is danger in it because it leads to an unbalanced portfolio. An unbalanced portfolio is much more vulnerable to the vagaries of unanticipated change. I discovered this principle in a most unusual and poignant manner. When I was in graduate school, I was assigned as the psychology intern on the physical rehabilitation floor of a large medical hospital. I vividly remember an elderly, powerful, and proud gentleman who was admitted because he had suffered a stroke that had left him permanently paralyzed in one arm. My job was to address his emotional needs during his stay. I visited his room every day for 2 weeks, but I got nowhere. He wouldn't speak a word to me. Finally, one day, as I was searching for a topic to engage him, asked, "Sir, you have been here for 2 weeks, but I don't recall you having any visitors during that time. Don't you have any family nearby?" The old and prideful man stared straight ahead with a steely gaze, saying nothing. Then I noticed a large tear forming in the corner of one eye and slowly rolling down his face. Still, he said nothing. I waited. Finally, the old man turned toward me. His voice was deep and quiet. He spoke slowly. "Son, I never needed nobody. I live for myself and by myself. I figured everybody else could do the same. Elle especially didn't want any family members come snooping around looking for money. I worked, unlike some of them. So I had nothing to do with them, and they had nothing to do with me. That's the way I liked it, that's the way I wanted it. You asked if I have family around here? I have 12 family members who live within 3 blocks of this hospital, but none of them have come to visit me, and none of them will. And I don't blame them. I never treated them right, and now they'll never want anything to do with me again." He finished. We were both quiet for a while. Then I asked, "You mentioned you had a job before the stroke and the paralysis. Will you be able to go back to that at least?" "I moved pianos," he said. This patient had neglected his change portfolio, and little could help him now. If you don't make your investments in those who are close to you in your personal life, the safety net that you rely on during difficult periods will cease to exist. You'll be left to deal with change and its consequences on your own. That's a lonely and sad situation, and all too common. Some of us pay a heady price for our success at work when we neglect to invest in our precious gems at home. Sometimes it's not a lack of investment in our precious gems that creates trouble, but rather trying to do too much. It's like being a day trader who's out of control. We get so busy trying to create opportunities that we end up creating rubble instead. We lose sight of the ring we were searching for in the first place, and instead of finding it, we pile more and more rubble on top. How many of you want to give your kids, or your grandkids, nieces or nephews every opportunity to grow up and be successful in whatever life they choose? You want to give them more than what you had growing up, even if what you had growing up was satisfactory. Either way, you want to give them every possible ring of opportunity that's within your power. So, you sign them up for music lessons, private schools, tutoring, and athletic programs. Often, they end up in activities that require meetings or practice several nights a week and overnight travel on the weekends. The financial and emotional price is high. Between the kid's schedule and yours, family life becomes a whirlwind of out-of-control activity. Your marriage is transformed into a tag-team chauffeuring service. Communication between you and your spouse consists mostly of an exchange of information about who's going where and who's doing what over the next several days and weeks. As for investing in yourself by going to the gym or reading a book or eating a healthier diet, forget about it. You decide that all those gurus who write the self-help books and articles about work-life balance don't have either kids or jobs, or both. To find the ring in this rubble, you have to rebalance your change portfolio. As with financial investments, periodically you need to re-examine your goals in life and make sure that your current investments of time and energy are in line with those goals. Sometimes getting a reminder helps. As a young leadership consultant, I was always on the go, building my business to support my family. One night, after a quick dinner with the family sandwiched between business meetings, I got up to leave. "Where are you going?" my 6-year-old asked, his face flashing concern. "Daddy has a business meeting." "But you just got home." "I'll only be gone a few hours. I promise I'll give you a goodnight kiss when I get back." "But I'll be asleep," he protested, his concern mounting. Suddenly he cried, "Wait a minute," and raced out of the room. Soon he came running back and handed me his picture. "Here," he sniffed, the tears welling up. "Take this picture to remember me by." Okay, so the kid had a flair for the dramatic, But I got the message. I had been working a lot back then, and I had not been home much the previous several weeks. My son missed me and needed me, and as I thought about it at the time, I missed him and needed him too. Not to mention the time I was missing with my wife and daughter too. I had been neglecting my investments at home. Without being aware of it, I had allowed work to consume me. My son's theatrics woke me up to the need for rebalancing my change portfolio to align it with my life goal of putting family before business whenever possible. Now, I know some of you are thinking that because you work for somebody else, you don't have the luxury of putting off business obligations or taking time off frequently, that your company won't allow it. Sometimes that's true. Some organizations are miserly with giving us time off, but remember, even Bob Cratchit asked for and got time off at Christmas. Don't let your fears about what your company will or won't allow become an excuse for not administering your change portfolio. I always remember what one executive in a professional services firm taught me about this. Her firm was notorious for people complaining about their lack of life balance and blaming their condition on their employer and highly demanding clients. When I asked this executive about it, she said, "If I'm at a client site and I believe I need to get home for an important family event, no one from my firm or the client is going to stop me. At the same time, I don't expect them to drive me to the airport." The personal responsibility she took is right on target. We are all responsible for where we choose to invest our time and energy. That doesn't mean that we always get to do what we want and can avoid making any sacrifices. It simply means that when and where to make such sacrifices is ultimately an individual choice. And just like our investments in people at work, it's easy to put off our investments in those at home. You get busy and believe that you'll get to it later, but if you hesitate, you might not get another chance. A bittersweet example. Recently, I endured the toughest day of my professional career, a day that was at once one of the saddest and one of the most rewarding experiences I've had in quite a while. I was preparing to give a speech scheduled for the following day when the phone rang in my hotel room. It was my client. "Gary, can you come down to the lobby and meet with us? We've had a horrible tragedy." When I went downstairs, my client informed me that one of their top executives had died that morning during the meeting. The executive, I'll call her Niqueann, was scheduled to be the next speaker. She was all mic'd up and ready to go, but she never made it to the podium. Within moments, she collapsed and was gone. Rather than give my speech the next morning, I helped preside over an impromptu memorial service instead. Niqueann was 41 years old, had been married 5 years, had no children, and had been in seemingly good health. So where in the world was the ring in that rubble? First, the rubble was very deep and very painful. It was a tragic and devastating turn of events. The pain was intense, powerful, and palpable, even for me, a virtual outsider. I could only imagine what it was like for those who knew her, worked with her, and loved her. But as I spent time with this group over the next 24 hours, it became clear that the ring came from Niqueann herself in the form of the legacy she left behind. Everyone I spoke with said that they knew, liked, and admired Niqueann. She always had a smile on her face, right up until the moment she died. One executive said that Niqueann was the kind of person who could tell you no and make you feel good about it. I could be having the worst day of my life, and after talking to Niqueann, I would walk away feeling how lucky I was to be having that day, he said. Another told me of a grueling feedback exercise he had gone through as part of his career development. He had to meet with several senior executives. Apparently, they had showed him no mercy. "By the time I got to Niqueann, I was pretty beat up," he said. Sat down and braced myself for another round of punishment. Instead, Niqueann took one look at me and said, "You don't look like you need any more feedback. How about a cookie instead?" We sat back and broke bread together. She was the best. In sharing their pain, Niqueann's co-workers remembered the joy she had brought to each one and the executive skill and talent she had contributed to the company. It was clear that she was both loved as a person and respected as a professional by her colleagues and co-workers. Yes, Niqueann was gone, but thanks to the investments she had made in people, her legacy of contagious energy, achieving results, and enjoying every step along the way lived on. Her legacy was the ring in the rubble.